My esteemed viewers, in this tutorial comes as a sequel to our AI tutorial, AI lecture series 1. And before embarking on our tour of an artificial form of intelligence, in this tutorial we take a look at what intelligence actually is in humans, animals and machines. The important aspects of mental makeup are considered. Some myths were taken down to size, and comparisons have been made between intelligence in the different entities. For example, what is the intelligence of a spider? What does it mean for a machine to be intelligent? How would human intelligence be regarded by an alien? Clearly, the subjective nature of intelligence is very important before we embark on the kind of topics such as artificial intelligence. Researchers in this area have found defining intelligence is a little tough task. It is important before looking into artificial intelligence to try to understand what exactly the intelligence is in the first place. What do we mean when we say a person, animal or a thing is intelligent? In fact, everyone has a different concept based on their own experiences and views, dependent on what they think is important and what is not. This can easily change. What may be deemed to be intelligent at one time and place may not be so deemed later or elsewhere. As an example, the New English Dictionary of 1932, intelligence was defined as the exercise of understanding, intellectual power, acquired knowledge, and quickness of intellect. Clearly, at the time, the emphasis was placed on knowledge and mental speed with a learning towards human intelligence. More recently, Macmillan Encyclopedia of 1995 stated that intelligence is the ability to reason and to profit by experience. In 1900, Binet, the inventor of the IQ test, picked on judgment, common sense, initiative and adaptability as essential ingredients of intelligence. Recently, intelligence has been linked with spiritual awareness or emotions. Clearly, intelligence in humans is important, but it is not the only example of intelligence, and we must not let it to override all other else. If you are comparing intellectual ability between humans, then standard tests of one type or another are useful. However, we need here to consider intelligence in a much broader sense, particularly if you are to investigate intelligence in machines. It should be in a broader sense. I think we have to present the intelligence in creatures. It is worth considering, of course. Here we will look at a few to consider aspects of intelligence such as communication, planning, and something like doing complex tasks, planning, and some of the terms just defined, such as initiative, reasoning, and quickness of intellect. Honeybees exhibit, it is said, individual behavioral characteristics within the honey hive, that is a tightly knit society. It is so much so intelligent that every cell is made out of a regular hexagon. Who taught these honeybees? They appear to communicate with each other by means of complex dance routine called as waggle dance. When one bee returns from a pollen collection or nectar collection expedition, it performs a dance at the hive entrance, wiggling its bottom and moving forward in a straight distance of the pollen source or honey source. And the angle mode indicates the angle between the source and the sun. Here it is shown. In the way other bees can learn which is good direction to fly. the distance moved is proportional to distance of the flower garden. Of course, it is left to the other honeybees to understand this particular kind of waggle dance. But anyway, there is an intelligence from a community behavior. Okay, there are it is said there are about 30,000 different species of spider, each with its own speciality. Water spiders, for example, water spiders live in ponds and build an air-filled diving bell, it is called, out of silk, okay, which is secreted by the spider itself. Then they wait underwater for passing prey such as shrimps, something like this. At the right moment, the spider pounces to deliver a fatal bite, pulling the prey back into its nest before cherishing it. Many creatures have been witnessed exhibiting learning abilities. A good example is octopus. Of course, I think we have seen octopus being shown in different academic circles. So a good example, by training one octopus to choose between objects of different colors, experiments have shown how a second octopus which has watched the first through a glass partition can carry out the exact same decision making process. It is also said many creatures use tools. As an example, an unusual example of this category is green heron. Herons have been seen dropping morsels of food, small particles of food, into water where fishes are expected to be in. When the fish swims to take a bait, the heron catches it. Because of their genetic links to humans, chimpanzees are the most widely studied non-human animals. They can communicate even with humans, plan hunting trips, use a variety of tools in a sequential order for food collection or for climbing. They play, put the blame on others, and even use devious ploys to gain sexual flavors from other chimpanzees. This on top of exhibiting basic learning skills. It is shown over here. Anyway, this is to be believed because a lot of experimental works have been done on chimpanzees to learn about their capabilities of learning. The capabilities of creatures such as spiders, whales, or slugs. Whales and slugs can be extremely difficult to give value to it if they are meaningless to human beings. Of course, can brain size measure the performance? Brain size and performance related to intelligence? Of course, it could be argued that one way in which direct comparisons can be made is in terms of brain size, relative numbers of brain cells called neurons, and the complexity. Comparing a human brain of approximately containing 100 billion neurons, that is 10 to the power of 11 approximately, with a sea slug which consists of only 8 to 9 neurons appear to be a good start for us. However, between species, brain size, neuron size, and connectivity all vary tremendously. Even between humans, there can be large variations, it is said. In the past, this used to prove all sorts of results. In Germany, it is said in the literature, in Germany in 1911, the minimum requirement for a professor was a head circumference of 52 centimeters. That is more than half a meter. This was used to, it's also said this was used to discriminate against women, but I don't want to continue on that. Any interested readers can go through the literature. Of course, one issue with brain size and the count of neurons is the definition of what exactly constitutes the brain. For an individual creature, this might be answered quite simply in terms of main group of central neural type cells, that is neurons. In humans, approximately 99% of the neurons are in the skull, with the other 1% in the nervous system. In many insects, the divide is more like 50-50. due to their dependence on rapid processing of sensory input. In machines, however, the brain is often networked, leading to a conclusion that the effective brain size is the total number of neural type cells in the network, that is neurons or perceptrons or processing elements, they are also called, rather than merely those in one central repository like human brain. Perhaps the other measure is the energy usage. That could be another important measure. Brains are highly expensive in this regard. Human brain metabolism accounts for as much as 22% of the, it is also found out, 22% of the total body requirements. In a chimpanzee, this figure drops to almost 9 to 11%, and in insects it is lower still. In machines that do not move, apart from cooling fans and indicating lights, as you might have guessed, not far short of 100% of its energy requirements are used for the information processing. Right. IQ tests. Of course, it is a basic feature of humans' nature to compare and compete. Indeed, our survival as a species on Earth depends on such basic qualities. In sport, we wish to see which human can run fastest, lift the heaviest weights, or eat most of the eggs, or whatever that is meant for the competition. Okay, we acknowledge that physically people tend to have their own specialities. Sometimes we look for broader physical abilities, such as the speed in which they can move, or the slowness which they can move, the amount of exercise that they can do, several things. In the 19th century, or even before, I suppose, there were many intelligent tests of one type or the another. For example, Francis Galton exhibited a series of tests in the Science Museum in London. These included putting in weight order a number of boxes, each different by 1 gram, distinguishing how close 2 points could be placed on the back of your hand before you could not tell the difference, and the measuring the speed of response to a noise. There are the IQ test. The present day IQ test itself was originally formulated by Alfred Binet in 1904. He was charged with developing a simple method by which children who would struggle in the normal school environment could be easily identified. He concentrated on faculties such as memory, comprehension, imagination, moral understanding, motor skills, and attention. The final version of his test, which was aimed at children 3 years to 12 years old, was made up of 30 parts which children worked through in sequence from start until they could no longer continue. The number reached was the mental age of the child. So many things have been discussed about this IQ test. The use of such tests and their validity, of course, has been severely questioned in recent times. In fact, validity tends to have been shown in terms of statistical links, insofar as those who do well in school examinations tend to also do well in IQ tests. Whether this means IQ tests actually indicate anything at all about intelligence remains an unanswered question still. However, there are strong statistical correlations between exam performance and hence IQ test performance and job status. Interestingly, not so with job performance. That is the thing. And people have studied the intelligence nature or intelligence layers as far as twins are concerned. Considerable interest, of course, it is one of the areas of considerable interest in the study of identical twins who can be deemed to have a pretty close genetic makeup of their brains, even including the period in the womb. Some of the researchers have written about this the span of this intelligence, the span of growth of this particular intelligence. Hence, any perceived differences, so the theory goes, can be explained by nature rather than how they are built up or how they are brought up, that is nurture. In 1976, in a detailed study of 850 twins, John Lohethin came to the conclusion that the makeup of intelligence in identical twins happens to be 80 in favor of inheritance, the nature, and 20 in favor of environment, that means how they brought up. In 1966, Cyril Burt presented results on over 53 pairs of identical twins who he claimed had been separated at birth, randomly placed in their adoptive homes, and had no further contact with each other since birth. He came up with a figure of 86% by nature, and that is inheritance, and 14% in terms of how they are brought up, that is how they are nurtured while they grew up. More recently, at the University of Minneapolis, a special unit was set up specifically for the study of twins, and many interesting statistics have subsequently been obtained. For example, results were pooled in total of 122 pairs of identical twins in terms of IQ test scores, and similarities between pairs of twins correlated to 82%, which is almost similar to other results, that is 82% by is due to inheritance, and remaining 18% is due to how they are nurtured or how they are brought up. These are all how exactly it's a comparative intelligence, of course, and we will conclude this. And in this tutorial, I think we have tried to uncover what exactly intelligence is all about, in order that our further tutorial becomes very easy to move forward, to look more deeply into AI, artificial intelligence. We have seen how intelligence is an integral part of an individual, and that how the world is presented in terms of sensing, and how the world is manipulated in terms of motor abilities. Okay, and we have seen some of the factors which are important. It has been stressed in general, it has been stressed as vitally important to consider intelligence in other creatures as well as humans, and to look at intelligence in humans in terms of the broad spread of individuals that form humanity as a whole, and not simply an ideal. I think human intelligence is made up of inheritance as well as how it is nurtured, particularly if we examine identical twins. So with this we close, and there are many books or many textbooks available for further reading, and interested viewers can definitely go through them, and they can make a further study. But anyway, I suppose this much of stuff is very much essential or sufficient in order to continue our journey in the actual domain that this tutorial series are intended, that is artificial intelligence. So I thank every viewer who viewed this, and if you liked this, kindly subscribe to my channel.